Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. Hi, I hope everyone's having a good afternoon, morning, evening, whatever time it is for you right now. Oh, I saw someone from Mexico. It must be like 4:30 a.m. for you right now. Yes, it's 4:30 a.m. for you. Well, thank you for joining us, for staying up so late and joining us for the webinar. But super excited to have all of you here. I see a good number of the participants coming for this kickoff briefing, which is great. I apologize to those who are in a, I apologize for those who are in a very difficult time zone where it's 4:30 a.m. or on the other side of the world. We are actually trying to stagger a lot of our webinars so that everybody kind of gets a chance to attend some of them at a reasonable time. So yeah, but I will go more into the webinars a little later on. Yeah, so thank you all for joining us, and thank you all for registering for the International Space Challenge 2022. Some of you might know we used to be called the Singapore Space Challenge, and we've recently rebranded to ISC, International Space Challenge. So in some ways, you guys are all participants of the debut International Space Challenge. So yeah, I'm so glad to have all you guys here, and we're super excited to see so many participants taking part this year. So the idea of today's kickoff briefing is actually to allow you guys, mostly you guys, to ask any questions you have about the challenge before we actually, as we start the challenge officially. So the last few months have primarily been registration processes and a lot of introduction to what the Space Challenge is and what you are hoping to do in the Space Challenge. Today, we will cover a little bit about that for those who didn't attend the introductory webinar a couple of weeks ago. So we will cover a bit of the basics, but I will also be going into a bit more of the technical details of what we are hoping to expect from your projects over the challenge, and also what you can expect in the course of the next few months. So yeah, it's going to be hopefully a very exciting and very event-packed 4 months coming up. It will sound very intense, but if we have any previous participants here, I think they can share with you that the events that we usually have, the webinars and all the things that we have planned, are catered to helping you learn and also to helping you not only just do well in the challenge, but also to find useful skills that you can eventually use after you finish the challenge, or when you're applying for university or looking for jobs. So yeah, we take all questions today. I will try to answer as many questions as we can. I also have Angela and Jonathan who are part of the SSTL team, and they are going to help me to answer some of your questions in case I miss them. But I will do my best. So if you have any questions at any point of time, just drop them into the chat box, and then we will try to see how we can answer them. Okay, so with that said, I will jump straight into the briefing so that everyone can, so that we can update everyone about the things. Okay, yeah, so in case some of you do not know who I am, I'm Jillian. I am the program coordinator for the International Space Challenge, which is created by the Singapore Space and Technology Limited. We are an organization, a non-governmental organization based in Singapore, and we are aiming to help develop Southeast Asia's space and related high technology industries. And not just Southeast Asia, actually. We try to develop the space industries around the world in a way to kind of bridge the whole space community. We are advocate and thought leader in the industry, and we serve as a resource for the government, academia, and business community, which also in turn gives us a lot of opportunities for you guys, which we then hand over to you guys in the form of Space Challenge and the webinars that you guys can get. And we spearhead a lot of initiatives, different initiatives to advance the space ecosystem, as well as drive talent development through education and outreach programs. So if you are taking part in the Space Challenge this year and you have officially registered, then you would know that this year's topic is on space weather. We change our topic every year for the Space Challenge, depending on what is relevant to the industry at this point of time. So if you've taken part in previous years, you would have done different topics before, including, I think we had 1 year on space debris, we had 1 year on lunar robotics. This year we are doing on space weather. And I know space weather is a bit of a unknown topic for many, and it's a bit of a difficult topic for many because there is not a lot of materials very easily available online, but we are going to do as much as we can to help you guys through learning about space weather. Space weather is also extremely relevant to our lives now because we are experiencing some of the largest changes and significant events when it comes to space weather. So there are actually a lot of data that you can access this year through open source websites, also through hopefully some of our potential data sources that we are working partners who are coming in to help you guys provide some space weather data that you guys can use to analyze and apply to your projects. But yes, so just a little bit about why space weather is so crucial to our industry at the moment. If you know space weather, there are different kinds of space weather. There's a whole variety of them. But one of the most prominent is obviously solar flares. And solar flares actually, the larger ones can actually potentially affect our satellites and GPS devices that are currently, or not just satellites and GPS devices, but any spacecraft flying and are orbiting around Earth. It can also affect our power grid and systems and can cause mass blackouts across countries or cities and states. It affects the astronauts who are living in the International Space Station because they are exposed to a bulk of the radiation that comes with the solar flares, and also can affect aircraft communications. So yes, so space weather is a bit obscure, but when you think about it, there's a lot of different ways that we can look at space weather. There's more than one source that you can approach space weather from, right? So that comes to our challenge statements for 2022. So as you know, we've introduced the starter category this year, and I know there's a number of you who are in the audience that are taking part in the starter category. And the starter category, we are challenging you to design an experiment to be conducted on board the International Space Station that utilizes a change in space weather as the independent variable. What this means is that, like I mentioned, there are different ways to monitor the changes in space weather. You do not need to use all of them. You just need to pick one significant factor to include into your experiment and use that as your basis. So there are a lot of different options, which we will probably cover in one of our later webinars in more detail about what these variables can be. But yeah. For the open category is to design a satellite mission to observe the changes, their causes, and/or patterns in the Van Allen belts. So yeah, I think for the open category, the topic's a bit more straightforward. A satellite mission, so it does require a bit more technical knowledge, but I'm sure a lot of you are able to do it. Every year we've seen amazing projects coming in, so we are extremely excited to see what you guys have in store for us this year. And for the starter category, we're extremely excited to see what you submit because it's a new category for us, and it's going to be something that we would have new experiences with. But yeah, so just to quickly cover the part that everyone, in case you don't already know, although I feel like everyone already knows, the prizes that we have up for grabs this year, in the starter category, we have 3 distinction awards worth SGD $1,000, as well as a best poster award worth actually $500. For the open category, we have the Distinction Award, which is two distinction awards worth $1,000, 3 merit awards worth $500, the most creative award also worth $500, and of course the grand prize, which is worth $10,000 Singapore dollars, 10,000 Singapore dollars. So that are all the prizes up for grabs. With potentially more, we will update the page as we go along, and if we get any more prizes available, but this is what we have at the moment. So the project deliverables for the starter category is an experiment proposal not exceeding 15 pages, 10 to 15 pages, with all your illustrations, graphics, schematics, and a complete bibliography. Guys, do not plagiarize. Plagiarism is a very big thing, so we do encourage you to use your own words and also to reference all the sources that you use. A video presentation for the judges to better access your concepts and your experiments, which does not exceed 10 minutes. I do encourage everyone to get kind of creative with your presentations, because this is usually where you can try to catch the attention of the judges. I'm speaking here as a neutral party, so you guys can use the presentation as a way to catch the attention of your judges and bring a bit more excitement to your projects in a way that you cannot do on a paper proposal, right? As well as a graphic presentation and scientific poster. So a scientific poster, it's an A1 poster that summarizes your entire experiment or the key points of your experiment. And this poster will actually be showcased at our conference, at our industry conference in February next year. So I would say take the poster very seriously, because you will have industry experts looking at your experiments and what you are proposing to study. So this is your mission details for the starter category. These are just some basic guidelines and parameters that all of you need to take note of, because these are the limitations of the International Space Station. So the size of your project should be not more than 36 cm by 39 cm by 50 cm. If you require electrical power for your experiments, you have a 200 watt maximum. The weight of the experiment should not go over 5 kilograms. If you are using gases, there's a maximum PSI of 100. If you need to downlink information, the speed is, we have 4 Mbps. And then if your experiment is going to require astronaut time. What astronaut time means, if you are going to require astronauts on board the space station to tend to your experiment consistently, it should not require, it must only require a maximum of 1 hour per day and an accumulated maximum of 20 hours per month. Some general restrictions of the ISS obviously include no explosives, no poisonous gases, no open powders or sediments that may damage other instruments. All movable parts must remain inside an enclosed container, no radioactive elements or substances, and any experiments that you want to be mounted outside the ISS. So if you know, the ISS has an external experiment platform as well. The external, it has to be there for a minimum duration of 6 months. At this point, I'm going to look at the Q&A just to see what are some of the questions that you guys have. May I know what are the topics to be covered in the Meet the Expert sessions and technical workshops, and to what extent? Jiahui, I will get to that just a little bit later on. Ami Rali asked, do we receive an example or guide document file for mission report in the open category to explain more about it? We will share, we actually already have a document uploaded onto the main website. We will update it after today with the mission details as well for your reference. Must the experiment be able to withstand the vibrations on the way to space on the rocket? Yes, it needs to be able to withstand the vibrations. But there are actually ways around that. From what I understand is that there are ways to package it that it has less to do with the experiment itself and more to do with the way it is packed to go into the rocket, because obviously there are a variety of experiments being conducted aboard the ISS at the moment. Does this mean that we have to specify the duration of the experiment phase and make sure that it is within a 6-month duration? So it depends on what your experiment is. The 6 months duration is applicable only if you want to have your experiment mounted outside of the ISS. We will actually be hosting a webinar or a seminar which discusses the kind of experiments that are being conducted on the ISS and the facilities that are available, so that you get a better idea of what kind of experiments you can conduct. But just to go in very briefly, the International Space Station has, I believe, 4 research modules, each with its own kind of facilities, as well as external experimentation platform. The external experiment platform, the idea of it is that you can use it to test materials and exposure to the open space environment. So obviously inside the space station, it is a regulated environment that allows for the astronauts to live. The outside, you are exposed to the complete space. So you get the full blast or whatever radiation is gonna get you get heat waves, you get freezing cold temperatures, all these. Will the winning experiments actually be conducted on the ISS? Unfortunately, no, we do not have the kind of budget to send the experiments up to the International Space Station at the moment. However, we do have opportunities through different other programs that we can potentially try to adapt your projects so that they fit those guidelines, and maybe but for this challenge we will not actually be sending any of the experiments up to the ISS, although we will have experts who have experience sending experiments up to the ISS to be judging your proposals. Does the enclosed container also need to be within the parameters given? The enclosed container, that yes, the container that you are using to transport the experiment up, no. I hope that answers your question, Etienne. Is it necessary for calculations to be listed on the poster, or can we just reference it? So, a poster, a scientific poster, generally what it includes, we will go more into this in another workshop where we go into details. Obviously, I only have 1 hour today, but in more details. But basically, a scientific poster provides a summary of what your experiment is, what your experiment aims to find out, and what your experiment will look like, and some of the potential results that you expect that your experiment will achieve. If the calculations are a key factor to your experiment, then yes, you should include it in your poster. Obviously, you don't need to give any result or detailed answers to that calculation. You can show what kind of formula you are using, why you're using that formula, to justify your hypothesis, if that makes sense. Will we be building a prototype along our 15P? You do not need to build a prototype for this. You do not need to build a prototype. You need to have a design, a 2D design, basically just to show us what your experiment will look like. It's just a lot easier to view. Obviously, if you're able to describe it in words, go ahead, but you do not need to build a 3D prototype. Yeah. Okay, the other questions I see at the moment relate to the open category. So I will leave that for a bit, and then I will jump over to that later on. Yes. Okay, let me just quickly check chat just to make sure I didn't miss anyone's question in chat. Yeah, okay, I think we're good in chat. Okay, so just moving on. Judging criteria, obviously, I went through this in the introductory webinar, but if you missed it, we have different, your projects are judged on firstly would be technical characteristics. This will make up 25% of your score. And it looks at your technical and scientific accuracy, the accuracy of your calculations, illustrations and graphics, as well as how viable your experiment is to being conducted and getting feasible results. Right, so that makes up 25% of your score. 30% of your score, and probably the largest component of the starter categories judging criteria, is creativity. So we are looking for novel ideas, concepts designed for experiments on the ISS. But of course, you also do need some justification about why you are doing it in this way and why it is different from all the other things that you have seen so far, what you are testing, and as well as the function of the design. 15% goes to effort towards scientific knowledge, which includes evidence of self-directed research and learning done. So how we measure this is we are going to look at your references, the papers that you have read to better understand what is space weather, what goes behind an experiment, or perhaps if you are doing a experiment on, I don't know, cell research, you show us evidence that you have done substantial research in the area of cell research that will allow us to justify your project. Yeah, so this is really looking primarily at your references in your bibliography, as well as how well you're able to apply that knowledge that you have learned into your project. 15% goes into your scientific poster. Like I said, the scientific poster is very crucial because we will actually be showcasing your posters at the conference for the public to see, or rather the industry experts to see. You do not need to send us a physical poster. You send us a 2D poster or a digital one, a digital file, and we will print out the posters for you. Okay, and we will then showcase. 10% goes into your presentation video. So like I said, the clarity of your presentation as well as adherence to guidelines. Adherence to guidelines is just basically means that you keep within the 10 minutes video. We take our guidelines very seriously because we have a lot of submissions every year, and so every year we get a lot of teams who ask us, oh, my paper is 16 pages, is that okay? Or like my paper is like 2 pages over. I will say no, it's not okay. What we tell the judges is that anything after 15 pages will not be read, or you don't have to read anything after the 15 pages. So as much as possible, try to keep within the 15-page limit, the 10 to 15-page limit, as well as keep within the 10-minute limit for the video. 10-minute limit for the video. Yeah. The last 5% goes into basic entry report formatting. So making sure that you have proofread your paper, proper referencing, the content and the structure is organized and easy to read, basic things like that. And then obviously, so that will make up the full 100% of your project. We do also offer bonus points in the form. So attendance for our various workshops and seminars does get you bonus points. For every 2 workshops and attended by a team, will grant you 2 bonus points, with a cap of up to 8 bonus points. So I'm not going to give you unlimited bonus points for attending all the webinars, even though it's good if you do attend as many webinars as you possibly can, but there is a cap of 8 bonus points for attendance of workshops and seminars. And then any additional information or effort into making like either a computer simulation or a mock-up. So someone asked before if they had to build a prototype. No, you do not have to build a prototype, but if it's something that you want to try and do, if it's something that you want to do, and you actually do manage to successfully do it, you can include photos of your prototype into your annex into the additional bibliography to show that you have done this, and you can get some bonus points for that as well. Yeah. Do the experiments have to be in a new separate module, or could they be included in pre-existing modules in the, if you're talking about like the modules in terms of the research modules, yes, they have to be able to function in the existing modules on the ISS. Because we are not going to be able to send up a brand new research module to the ISS to attach on. Will the participants have full ownership of the proposals after submission? Yes, you will have, the proposals are fully yours. The proposals are fully yours. We do actually ask that students do not put their branding on the proposals when they submit it, because we want the judges to have a kind of a neutral judgment, like with no go in to read your paper without any judgment based on any other reason other than the content of your paper. But yes, you have full ownership of your proposal after the submission. We do sometimes ask that the teams share their winning submissions as kind of reference materials for future competitions, for the batches who take place next year. But it still belongs, the IP and basically everything else still belongs to you. Is submission of computer simulation referring to simulating 3D modules using software? Yes. Assuming your project is physics related or is referring to coding, Python and C++. Yes. So any computer simulation does refer to actually 3D modeling software if you are able to do it. It's not compulsory. It's just additional bonus point if you can do it. Do we have the budget to work with? Do we have to state the cost for the items used? So for the starter category, you do not need to work out finances. You do not need to work out finances. The idea is just purely focused on your experiment itself. Of course, if you somehow manage to include your finances in, that will be fantastic, because they will give us a more accurate representation of how feasible your project is, but it is not compulsory. I would say if you do include finances, it will probably be counted under either your technical characteristic or effort towards scientific knowledge. What softwares can you use? You can use any software that you have available to you. We do not limit the kind of softwares that you want to use. Okay, yeah, I will jump to the other questions. Does every member have to be present for the team to receive bonus points? At least 2 members need to be present. So that is just it. At least 2, and then you will receive the bonus points. Okay, I will move on. I am not skipping out on your questions. I am just, because your questions will get answered later on in the webinar. So I will just move on for the moment. So for the open category, we have, obviously the open category is a lot more challenging. The mission report should be between 30 to 50 pages. Including all your standard illustrations, graphics, schematics, and a complete bibliography. Likewise, you need a 10-minute presentation video. The same applies. Get creative with your presentation. With previous years, we've had teams who have done mini skits. We've had teams who have done animation videos. We've had teams who done, what else did someone do? Someone did actually, I think, something like a business pitch video, which was quite cute. But yeah, I would say for your presentation, get fun, get crazy. It's your way of standing out, I would say. It's the easiest way to stand out from the competition. But yeah, so to get creative with your presentation. And the computer simulation is optional. So a computer simulation of your satellite mission. so describing the orbit of your satellite and how it will be launched. The mission details for the open category. So the size of each of your satellite should not exceed 500 kilograms. This is basically the size of what we would consider in the industry as a small satellite. And you are allowed to design smaller satellites. So if you have seen the chart of satellite categorization, we have everything from micro satellites all the way to geo satellites, and everything in between there. So as long as the satellite is not exceeding 500 kilograms, you are good. Participants must include a deorbit procedure, so that because our orbit is already very cluttered with space junk and space debris, and we do not want to add on to that with all these proposals. Your satellite should have a propulsion system so that it can prevent crashes with other satellites or other space, other objects orbiting around Earth. And your mission should be designed to operate for a minimum of 365 days. So at least 1 year, that is the requirement. For your reference, because you guys will need to do a financial report in the open category, launch prices to low Earth orbit is approximately USD $45,000 per kilogram. The suggested budget for your entire project is 50 million USD. This is the suggested budget. You do not have to follow it strictly. If in the case that you do go over the 50 million budget, but you can justify the excess, I see no issue with that. Of course, do note that if you go over the 50 million, the judges are definitely going to be looking at your project a little more closely to see why the budget is so high. But yes, so do not exceed, try to hit within the 50 million USD mark. If you do go over, just come with the justification of why it is over $50 million. Other considerations that you might want to think about when you are designing your satellites, is it going to be able to receive and transmit data? Are you going to be able to analyze both the radiation belts, both the Van Allen belts? Is it radiation proof? Are you going to have onboard positioning telemetry? So these are just something that you can take into considerations when you design your satellite. Otherwise, your satellite mission is entirely up to you to craft and design as you wish. Okay, quickly look at the questions. Should we design the satellite only, or do we need to develop a complete mission from takeoff to orbit? So we do encourage you to give a very basic overview of your mission from takeoff to orbit, like just very basic. Of course, if you have the space to expand on this, so every year, obviously, we get 50-page, there's a 50-page limit, right? And I would say it is quite hard to fit an entire satellite mission into 50 pages. I know there are teams who can go above and beyond that, and we've had teams who have done that last year. But I always tell, but because we do have the very strict 50-page limit, we do encourage you to pick out what is unique to your project, or what is the most novel thing about your project. And I will jump into the judging criteria a little bit so that you can see why I say novel, right? But yes, pick what you are good at to showcase, right? Think of this as you want to put your best self forward. If you are not very strong in your orbital mechanics, and that is fine, right? Because there are people in this who are taking part in the challenge from all backgrounds. If orbital mechanics is not your strength, but satellite design is, focus on satellite design versus the entire mission, overview. If orbital mechanics is what you are very good at, then go ahead and expand more in that area. If it's maybe the payload of your satellite that you are very good at designing, or something that you have very have a very interesting idea for, focus on that. We allow you guys, the International Space Challenge is designed to be very flexible. It's designed to be very, the guidelines, as you can see, in comparison to a lot of other space challenges, is thin, in a sense that we don't provide a lot of details. We've essentially just provided you 6 pointers for you to take note of, and that will basically be the guidelines for your entire project, which isn't a lot. And the idea and the reason for that is because we want you guys to get as creative as possible. We don't want to limit your ideas. Obviously, over the months, as you get to work and meet with the different subject matter experts, and as the different as you attend the different technical sessions, you will get to refine your ideas more and more to the point where it is something that you are potentially quite happy with. But again, where you start out with is entirely up to you, and what you want to focus on is entirely up to you, which I know sounds scary, but it really, I think the idea of it is we want you guys to take full control of your own ideas. Like I said, we don't claim any of the IP for the projects at the end of the challenge. It's all yours. So I want you to create something that you are proud of, whatever the idea may be. How will we check the attendance for the webinars? So if you have seen our email for this session, we do encourage that all of you register. For every Zoom webinar will have a registration page. And we do encourage that participants register using the same email and preferably name that you register for the Space Challenge with, so that we are able to check accurately who attended what webinar. So we do compile the attendance list for every webinar, which we then tally up against the main registration list to who is taking part in the challenge. Does the quality of your 3D models matter? I mean, the graphical quality. I guess if you're going to do a 3D model, the quality, it has to be at least clear enough that we can understand what the model is. That we can understand what the model is. Obviously, the bonus points are also scaled in a sense that obviously a better, higher quality 3D model may get a bit more bonus points, but if you made an effort to submit a 3D model anyway, you are still going to get some points in that area. Are there any particular dimensions for the satellite in the open category? No, there are no particular dimensions. It just needs to be 500 kilograms or less. Yeah, so that is just the... Can you point out the restrictions, please? The restrictions for... so whoever asked the question, because it's anonymous, I don't know who it is. But whoever asked, if I can point out the restrictions, do you mind elaborating on what the restrictions are? Because I'm not entirely sure what this is referring to at the moment. Would the weight of the stated in the mission details be a hard limit? Yes. This is because if you are using volume and density to calculate weight, the density of certain material may have a range. It may not be pure and would be all right to assume the lower threshold. Yes, the weight of the mission details is quite strict, because this is following UNOOSA's guidelines for what will count as a small satellite, or so anything heavier than that would be counted as a medium satellite and not a small satellite. Yeah. So I would say for the person who had asked this question, I would say balance the weight of whatever material you are using with the size of your satellite. So if the material is going to be quite heavy, build a smaller satellite so that you can account for the weight limit. Will we get temporary SDK license during this presentation? We will not actually be using SDK this year. We will be using a different software, which I will talk a bit more about later on. But the software is open source, so everyone will get access to it. Are we able? Yes. So how we are going to do submissions, or how we usually do submissions, is we will set up a Google Drive folder for everyone to upload your projects into. So you can, your main mission report will be one, and access like your simulation or your digital mockups can be submitted as separate files. In the case of must be radiation proof, yeah. So if you want to test the effect of radiation on the experiment itself, then no. So radiation proof, when we say this is only a consideration, this is only a consideration. Obviously, if your satellite requires you to allow radiation to affect your payload or whatever you're carrying on board the satellite, it is not wrong. This is just a guideline. This is just a consideration that teams might want to take note of when designing their satellite. But yes, you can do that as well. Is the use of minor disturbance allowed? Minor disturbance meaning, I'm not sure what minor disturbance. If anyone wants to elaborate on minor disturbance, either again in the Q&A or in chat, yeah. Which launcher will be considered? We won't consider a specific launcher. We are going to assume a generic spacecraft launch for all the projects. Obviously, if there is something that if you want to specifically include in your project, that is something that you can mention. The idea is we're just going to use a generic launch, in a sense that an imaginary generic launch for your projects. What design software would you recommend? I'm not an expert on like design software, but I would say previous years teams have used a variety, including CAD modeling, SolidWorks. Pretty sure someone used I can't remember what someone used before, but yeah, you can use any software that you want. I think CAD and SolidWorks are the two most popular choices, but if you find other ones available, then you are free to use it as well. Okay, so if you registered all your team members, your other team members did not provide an email and only the leader did, will we receive bonus points at webinar sessions? If we can track your name, if you use the same name as you register for the challenge with as for the webinar, maybe I would suggest that you email us with your team members' emails as well, so that it allows us to better track who attends the webinars. Email is the safest way because names, you can have variations across that may not exactly get, because of the variations, may not get picked up by Excel when we are doing the matching. But yes, so I would encourage you to send us an email with your team members' with your other team members' emails, and this goes out to all the other teams that only submitted their leader's email and not the rest of their team members, or you only submitted like one or two. Yeah, I would suggest that you send us at least one other team member's email, so that in case one of our emails doesn't go through to your team, you have a backup as well. I do know that some of you have pointed out to me on the Discord that you did not actually receive today's webinar link, even though your other team members did. So that is, yeah, so you see, we get issues like this sometimes that we can't really help, but it would be good if you can actually submit more than one team member's email address, so that we have more than one way of contacting your team and updating you. I see a couple of questions in the chat. Oh yeah, okay. So you guys are just suggesting other projects. Yeah. So yeah, I think some people are suggesting various modeling software in the chat, so you can actually refer to that. For the starter category, with references and examples of type of deliverables that are needed, like examples of experiments, we can potentially share with you some experiments that are. So we will be hosting a webinar where we talk about the kind of experiments are being conducted on the ISS, which you can use as a reference. But again, creativity makes up 30% of your project. So you can just use that as an example of what kind of experiments you can toy with. But I would hope that you guys come up with your own. Are we allowed to physically affect the Van Allen belts? The Van Allen belts are like pretty significant phenomena. I'm not sure how I'm not sure how you might be able to affect it, but you can certainly try. You can certainly try. Again, these are theoretical. This is theoretical, and there's no significant impact if you do suggest something that can affect it. So yes, I would say go ahead if you want to try and physically affect the Van Allen belts. It will be fun to see what you guys do though. Will this webinar be counted for bonus points? Yes, this webinar will be counted for bonus points as well. With close to zero knowledge about space weather and aerospace itself, will the workshops be enough to guide us through? So ISC is designed to be self-led research. The webinars and workshops will be enough to give you a kickstart your projects, get you start thinking about the ideas that you want to have. It will probably not be enough to give you a very technically accurate project. For that, we do encourage you to do a bit more research in your own time. Because again, our webinars are 1 hour a week. Our webinars are 1 hour a week. Yeah. How will we get to know the bonus points are being accredited to our team? We don't typically update on bonus points until the end when we are doing the judging criteria. But yeah, so we don't share the status of your bonus points unless you specifically drop us an email to ask. Yeah. Okay. Who do I contact if I want to change my email? I've been locked out of the email that is Hannah. I will share my email at the end of this presentation, so you can actually drop an email to that for any changes. And it is 5:20, so I will blitz through a bit more stuff, and then we'll try to get to the Q&A at the end. Again, for those who missed out on the first introductory webinar, this is the judging criteria for the open category. Similar to the starter category, we do offer stuff to technical characteristics and creativity. You would notice that technical characteristics in this case has a higher percentage, is 30%. And it includes finance and costing analysis. Do your finance and costing analysis, guys. Because the finance and costing analysis will make up on its own, will make up an additional 10% of your project, which you can see over here. We do know that every year the teams have difficulty. So when I say financial report and costing analysis, I do not require you guys to give me a full breakdown of the cost of every part of your satellite. I know that is difficult to find, and that is almost impossible to actually for you guys to get a catalog price of it. But we do need an approximation of how much it's going to cost for you to build the satellite. It can be a ballpark figure, but you do need to give the justifications for it. If you can find resources to help, resources can be is the cost of building similar satellites. If you do manage to find a product catalog, you can use a product catalog. You can use references from stuff like that. Yeah. from different like maybe NASA website or ESA website or any of the space agency websites. I do think some of them do share costing of certain satellites that they've built. Not a lot, obviously, but it will be difficult to do. But your financial report needs to be, you need to, we're not going to look at arbitrary numbers that you're going to say like, oh, my satellite is going to cost $100,000 to build and that's it, right? Obviously, if you're going to say $100,000, why do you think it's going to cost $100,000 in that ballpark figure? But yes, we also offer 15% to concept relevance, possible issues, applications, and the relevance of your satellite to the challenge topic itself or the challenge statement itself. And then, of course, likewise, we have presentation video and your formatting of the thing. So these two are the same. Yeah. And there is a maximum of 8 bonus points for the webinars and the workshops and all the various events. And for every 2 webinars that you attend, you get 2 bonus points. Yeah, so you can calculate it yourself. We will have a lot of webinars this year, so yeah, there will be more than enough to get to max out the 8. If you do find the cost of all your project, then yes, that is definitely better. Then I think you can very safely assume that you would have gotten the full 10% for the finance report. Any past winning entries that you can refer to? Yes. For the starter category, no, because this is the first year that we are running the starter category. So we do not have past winning entries for the starter category. We do have past winning entries for the open category that I believe are shared, is shared on the website, so you can look at that. Yes, you can write probable problems and solutions in the proposal. If you can think of any, that would be greatly beneficial. No satellite mission is without potential problems. That's all I say. You do actually have to attend for the workshop to get the points. But if you register, there are certain webinars like this webinar where if you register and you do not attend, we will send you the recording after. So you still get updated about the webinar, but you do not get the bonus points for it. So if you don't know, Zoom has a way to track who attends the webinars. Yeah. Okay. We are running out of time, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I will come to the part where everyone kept asking multiple times in the Q&A, which is the calendar of events. So we have our first event today, which is the kickoff briefing. The next one which is experiment on the ISS, will be hosted by Miss Eleni. It will be on the 28th of August. It is a Saturday in Singapore, or for most, it will be at 11 a.m. So all the timings here are in GMT +8. So whatever time zone you are in, please adjust it accordingly. So the next one will be experiments on the ISS. It is a webinar that is specifically catered to the starter category participants. But if you are an open category participant and you want to attend as well, you are free to do so. We will share the webinar link with everyone. So if it's something that you are interested in learning about as well, please feel free to attend, even though that it's not relevant to your specific challenge. On the 3rd of September at 8:30 p.m. GMT +8, we will have an introduction to space weather by Dr. Po Gang Kai. He is a NASA researcher and who has been working on space weather for several years now. So I'm very excited actually for his presentation. And the introduction to space weather should give you the basic foundations to understand what space weather is. He will be hosting a more advanced webinar, which goes into more about the theories of space weather and things like that, on the 10th of September. So if anyone who is interested, I would say the webinar will be more applicable to the open category. Of course, anyone in the starter category is free to attend as well. but it will give you a better understanding of the space weather, of space weather as a whole, and goes into more details, including a bit of the physics behind it. Yeah. So these are the confirmed webinars we have at the moment. What we have planned, and it's going to be a busy schedule, as you guys can see. On 17th September, we potentially, so all these dates are tentative at the moment. They will shift according to when our speaker is able to accommodate the timings, but they are usually on Friday afternoons or nights or Saturday mornings. So you can kind of look, the dates that are all stated here are Fridays, but some of them may be shifted to a Saturday. But we do try to host everything either on a Friday evening or night or a Saturday morning, because that is the time that best fits kind of everybody, or as many people as possible. We do have Introduction to Orbital Mechanics by Mr. Burak Iskandar coming up on 17th September. We have an Applications for Satellite Imagery. This is quite interesting because this will be actually more relevant to the open category participants. It is a way for you to analyze space weather by looking at Earth-based images. So we'll be talking about how to, if you remember, we talked a bit about how space weather affects us on Earth, which includes blackouts across cities and actually potentially climate change or abnormal climate changes, temperature change or weather changes in our atmosphere. So we can use satellite imagery to monitor these changes and see how they relate to space weather. So this will be actually quite an interesting session that you can look at. We do also have Radiation Belt Physics and the Van Allen Belts for the open category by Ms. Ling Ying, potentially on the 1st of October. We have an introduction to GMAT. So GMAT, so like just now we talked about, we said that we won't be using SDK this year. So GMAT is General Mission Analysis Tool. This is a software that was developed by NASA. So it is a very acclaimed software, and it's open source, which means that everybody can use it. And we will be hosting a little workshop on how you can utilize GMAT to do your satellite simulations or your satellite computer simulations for your missions. And then nearer to the end, we will have Aditya, who is also another the technical expert, SSTL, teaching you guys how to write firstly an experiment proposal, as well as how to write a technical report. So obviously an experiment proposal will be for the open category, and a technical report is, experiment proposal is for the standard category, and technical report is for the open category. This is because every year we get a bunch of questions asking us, how can you best format your paper? This year, we're just going to host an entire workshop to teach you how to write one. Throughout the month of November, we are going to be hosting our Meet the Expert sessions. So if you've not taken part in Space Challenge before, how the Meet the Expert session works, is that we will be sending out a listing of available time slots to the team leaders. Each time slot is 30 minutes long to meet with a certain expert. We will have several rounds of this, and it will take place throughout November. That's why there is no specific date to this. And it's on a first come, first served basis. What this means is that once the slot is taken, the slot is taken. There is no other rescheduling of slots. I will say now that we probably will not have enough slots for every team to be able to meet an expert. We are trying to get more experts on board so that we can give as many slots as possible to as many people. And we will actually regulate to ensure that as many people get slots as possible. But we do have a shortage of Meet the Expert session slots. So I would say get your team leaders to monitor their emails very closely as we draw closer to the November deadline. I will be sending out the bookings for Meet the Expert sessions on a weekly basis, usually on at least 1 week beforehand, so that we can settle all the bookings. So do keep a lookout for that. So if we start at the beginning of November, you would likely get an email sometime in middle to end of October to start booking slots. And of course, on 22nd December to 11:59 p.m. is the project submission deadline. This is a strict deadline. Anything late submissions will have points deducted. We've been very clear about this over the years. Yeah, because, and the primary reason we cannot be, as much as we understand that it's a difficult, that some of you may have difficulties submitting on time, either because of exams or external commitments, it is rather difficult for us to accommodate every late submission, because we only have a certain amount, because we do need to send all your projects out to the experts for grading. So the longer we provide any extensions, the lesser time the judges have to evaluate your work, and that may mean that they spend less time looking at the details of your project, which may or may not benefit some people. But yeah, it's not included on this calendar of events, but we typically hold a year-end party right before the submission deadline. This is actually quite a fun thing, which allows all our participants to get together virtually, hang out with one another, share their experiences of working on the project, and also ask any last-minute questions you might have to the staff of SSTL. Yeah, so we typically hold this about a couple of days before the project submission deadline, either on a weekend or a Friday evening. So do keep a lookout for that as well. Let me jump to the Q&A just to see if you join the webinar late, will we still get points? If you attend enough of the webinar, Zoom will recognize that you've attended the webinar. As long as Zoom recognizes that you have attended the webinar, then yes, you will get the points. Will we have separate? No, you will not get separate certificates for the different webinars. We will only provide a certificate to all the participants at the end of the challenge. Will you be allotted mentors and industry? We will not specifically allocate a mentor to you. It is up to you to take charge of extending questions to available mentors. We do have student mentors who are helping out to answer any questions, who have volunteered the time to answer any questions you may have on Discord. You can also email them. But yes. When will you check our email from backend? I'm not sure what this question means. What is the Discord and how do we join it? We will share the QR code at the end of this. If you are logged in earlier with a different email ID, but you're logged in now with your registered email ID, will your team get bonus points? Again, if Zoom recognizes you, then yes, we will be able to recognize you as attending. Will we get a recording of this meeting? Yes. If you have registered for the webinar, you will get a recording of this meeting. Can a team mentor be a student? Your team mentor can be a student. Please send this PDF in the Discord channel. Okay, we will upload it in the Discord channel. I mean, when you take attendance for today's webinar. Sorry, wait. Even though Meet the Expert sessions are in November, are we allowed to email them or message through Discord on any queries we have before then? Yes, you can email or message us through Discord if you have any queries before then. If your questions are too technical for us to answer, we can forward it to one of the subject matter experts to see if they will answer it and share it with you. And actually, even after the month of November, if any of the technical experts do ask for permission first, but if the subject matter expert that you meet with is open to it, you can continue emailing them after, of course, in moderation. Do not spam them with questions. The submission is in 2021, this year, 2021. So I do know the year, I say ISC 2022 is a bit confusing. The submission is this year, 2021, but we do have events running until February 2022, which I will jump into that now. So we do have a young entrepreneur pitching session, which we host every year in tangent with our main conference. obviously, the last few years have been virtual because of the whole current pandemic that we are experiencing, but so everything will be virtual. But the Young Entrepreneur Award, or if you're a previous participant, you will recognize it as the Community Choice Pitching Award. We've rebranded it to the Young Entrepreneur Award. It's a separate competition. It's a parallel competition to the to the International Space Challenge, which allows you to test your business acumen and your presentation skills. So I would say if these are areas that you think you excel in, you can consider registering for the Young Entrepreneur Pitching Session and stand to win the Young Entrepreneur Award, which is worth $500. Registrations for this session will open in January. I will send out an email to everybody requesting for some registrations. We do have limited slots for this as well. There are only, I believe, last year we took in 6 teams. We are trying to accommodate more teams this year, but that is depending on how much time we have for the pitching session. It's a first come, first serve basis. So likewise, do watch your emails around this timing if you want to take part in the Young Entrepreneur Pitching Session. And obviously, to conclude everything at the end of the challenge, after all your hard work, we do have an award ceremony where everybody is invited to attend, and this will also be in February, sometime in February. Dates to be confirmed because everything in the world currently is in flux. Yeah, so that is all I have to share for today. I'll jump to the Q&A in a bit, but my email is there. So if you want to update, make any changes to your registrations, if you want to update me, make some changes to your registration information, if you have questions about the challenge, do feel free to drop me an email. And for all those who are asking for our different socials, our Discord channel QR code is over here. Yeah, our Discord channel QR code is over here. We also have the website is over here. We also have Telegram, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the regular socials to find us on. I would encourage everyone here to try and join Discord. You can remain anonymous, so you do not have to worry about your identity being exposed on Discord. But our community has been quite active, and it's the easiest way to get in touch with any of the team members, any of the SSTL team, as well as the student mentors. The student mentors are very active on the Discord channel. They sometimes I do know they sometimes host streaming sessions to teach you how to use simulation softwares on their own accord. So if you do see them streaming on the Discord channel, feel free to jump in and say hi to them. The mentors are super friendly and they were all past participants, so they know exactly what you are going through. But yeah. Most of the webinars seems like they are for physics. Would there be any webinar subject experts on biology, chemistry, and engineering in space? Are the list of webinars finalized? The webinars are not finalized. We may have more coming in. We are trying to get, most of them are on physics, but we do have a couple that are more about, that may be more about biology. And a lot of our experts are, even though they're not specifically experts in biology, they do have some background in biology and chemistry and engineering, because that is what is required for the space industry. It requires you to be multidisciplinary in many sense. Do you have to be a graduate to register for the Young Entrepreneur Pitching? Can we come out? You do actually need to be a registered team for the International Space Challenge. To be able to take part in the Young Entrepreneur Pitching Session. In other words, you do have to have taken part in the actual ISC challenge. ISC challenge. Can a member of the team who is not the team leader apply for the Entrepreneur Award? Yes, the other members can apply for the Entrepreneur Award to take part in the Entrepreneur Challenge. But we will only send the email to the team leaders, because in previous years, what we have found was that when we send the email to all the team members, sometimes they unknowingly different members will both register the team for the challenge, for the challenge. So to prevent that, we just send the email to the team leader. If you want to change who your team leader is now, drop me an email and say you want this other person to be the team leader. The award ceremony, if it is in person, will be based in Singapore, but we will live stream it for everyone to attend. Yeah. What are some of the common mistakes that past participants have made? Common mistakes that past participants have made. Oh, that's kind of tricky. I would say probably so I won't say it's a mistake necessarily. Like I said, we do try to encourage as many different ideas as possible. I do think the common mistake is that participants tend to go into too much detail on certain areas that takes up a bulk of their page limit, that leaves them with very little space to expand on anything else. So what I do say that focus on the areas that are your strengths. Take into consideration that there is also other components that you will need to take note of, including like that are very important and should be included in all reports, including your literature review, including a general introduction, and a good summary. Yeah. I won't say there are like specific mistakes that you can make. We welcome, I mean, do we really know if it's a mistake? Yeah, I would just say that plan your time wisely. I know everyone has a habit of, so every year, everyone starts panicking in the last 2 weeks because they have not written a single word in their report, which is perfectly normal, and I understand it. I have been a student before, and we have a tendency to procrastinate to the very last minute. Writing a report in 2 weeks is possible. Doing your entire project from start to finish in 2 weeks, I would say, is an difficult endeavor. So plan your time wisely. Don't put anything off to the end. It will be relevant. The Young Entrepreneur Pitching Award will be relevant to your project. It is essentially a business pitch for your project, to see how it would fare in a commercial world. How do we prepare for it now? You don't have to start preparing for it now. That's why registration is only open in January. I would say work on your actual project first, your actual ISC project first. And if you think you have a good project that is commercially viable, you can consider using it for your Young Entrepreneur Pitching Challenge. Then the Young Entrepreneur Pitching will become very easy for you once you have your actual project done. Yeah, I think this is the bulk of the questions. Can you share the email for the inquiry? It's my email, guys. I'm just drop me an email if you have inquiry about your bonus points. Yeah, I think we can. I'm not sure if the student mentors are here. I'm not sure if any of the student mentors are here today, but they are in the Discord chat, and I believe they've actually shared the link to their previous project in the Discord chat before, and we can definitely share their link on our website, so you can refer to that. Yeah, I think that is I have answered every question that I can. But yeah, so if you guys, I will not take up any more of your time. We've overrun already by 20 minutes. I'm sorry for that, for taking up your Friday. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, this is all from me. If you have any other questions, drop us an email. And I look forward to seeing you guys at other future webinars. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.